What do you think happens to these souls when people die?
Sure. Looking at near-death experiences, times 4,000 I've seen descriptions of separation from the physical body. Interestingly, most of the time they feel relieved to be apart from the physical body. They're free. They're immaterial. Movement is non-physical. That what's often horrifically painful event that led to their near-death experience is gone. Immediately they don't have any of that pain, and they often feel like this is their real self, which I think is very revealing. But then when they go on and have described an afterlife, there's basically a realm, other beings. The one most common word that has been used by people that have near-death experiences to describe what occurred during the experience is love. So generally they feel overwhelming sense of love, of peace in this, well, we call it unearthly realm, but hey, most near-death experiencers feel, or often describe, that feels like the real home. And interestingly, in that relatively small percentage of people having a near-death experience, when they're in that unearthly, beautiful realm, often with deceased loved ones, movements, non-physical, communication, telepathic, in that minority of people having NDEs that are given a choice about whether they want to stay there or return to their earthly body, the great majority do not want to return to their earthly body, which is amazing. Think about that. Friends, family, loved ones, everything that they knew, all that they were, typically for decades, they're willing to literally be apart from. And that's how enveloping, how deeply, profoundly beautiful that sense of love, that sense of connection, that sense of it being their real home. That's how deep it is for people having a near-death experience. And that's actually awkward because sometimes if they recover and have decided, at least initially that they didn't want to return to their earthly body, but then later decide they do, that's very awkward to share with their spouse. And we've run across a bunch of people that, if they're honest about sharing that experience, and people generally are, they have to explain to their spouse, no, you can't understand that that's my real home. You'll be there too. We'll all be together there. But, that was, and sometimes spouses are of the person that had the near-death experience can be very put out and unhappy and disappointed that they were so willing to leave. I get that. I've seen that I think probably hundreds of times.
Really?
It's a minority of near-death experiences given a choice, but by the time you have over 4,000 near-death experiences, even uncommon ones, events like that, you see a lot of.
How many of the 4,000 were given a choice?
Oh, I'd have to estimate because I haven't.
Yeah, if you were just to guess.
Yeah, I would say it's probably somewhere between 5 and 10%. Probably 10% would be my ballpark figure. Yeah, so it's not unusual. Most of the time, the significant majority, they're simply sent back involuntarily. There's not a dialogue or not a choice given. But for that minority, there's and what's fascinating too is when they're given a choice, there's often a great deal of dialogue. I mean, again, the great majority of people having a near-death experience do not want to return to that earthly physical body shell. They want to stay in that area of freedom, non-physical, acceleration of consciousness, profound feeling of love and peace beyond anything they knew on earth. So not surprisingly, they will do it. But the dialogue is fascinating. There can be a great deal of discussion with other beings there. They literally can argue about wanting to stay there. So it's fascinating what leads to, and I've actually have studied that in a small series, about why ultimately when they had a choice and at least initially did not want to return to their physical body, well, why did they ultimately decide to do that? And so probably the number one thing that in this small series was for children. If they had children, especially young children, that was a pretty compelling reason for them to come back. But also another reason would be your work's not done on Earth. You have more things to do. You have more things to experience. One thing that is crystal clear in near-death experiences is that our earthly lives, however difficult they are profoundly meaningful and significant. And so as part of the decision about returning, that may be sort of a reason for many, is that they have more to live, their earthly life is important, so boom, they make that decision to return.